Alright, so after going to anger management class, domestic violence class, parenting class, and having to go to individual therapy because the court required it in order for me to stay with my family, I've discovered that no one really gets what effective communication is. Okay, in one of my last classes, one of the teachers was sharing the new rules that there were no cell phones to be allowed in class. And one of the students in the class, she normally uses the cell phone like no tomorrow. And when the teacher was explaining this to her and demanded that she put her cell phone away, the student felt insulted and said, "No, I'm not going to put my cell phone away." And this led to a whole argument that lasted probably about 10-15 minutes. Them saying, "I don't care if you don't want me to use my cell phone. The previous teacher let me do it." And the other saying, "I don't understand why you're doing this, you're being childish." And was the situation resolved? No, it was a really awkward class after. Okay, in these next few videos, I'm going to be talking to you guys more about effective communication. I'm going to be expanding a lot more based off one of my more popular videos, surprisingly, on active listening. So before I get into it, if you constantly find yourself arguing over the same thing, or you constantly feel like you're not being heard, it's time to up your skills in effective communication. And today I'm going to be sharing with you guys the 4 essential skills to effective communication. So, what is effective communication? So, effective communication is when the listener fully understands the message the speaker is trying to send. So, which is why the first skill, active listening, is the most important skill. It's not just important to pick up the information that's being given to you, it's also important to pick up the emotion from the other person. The second skill is picking up the nonverbal communication, okay? 70% of our communication doesn't come from our mouth, okay? It all comes from our body language, our tone, our facial expressions, our gestures, okay? Our nonverbal cues. So to expand a little bit more on nonverbal cues, I want to give you guys a couple tips on learning how to read and pick up on people, because I believe this is extremely important, and also how to use it for your own self so you're more open and more receptive to listening. Okay, so the first 3 tips I'm going to be sharing with you guys is how to pick up body language from other people. So the first tip is people watch. This is something that Stephanie and I used to do just for fun. We'd go to a Barnes & Noble, hang out at the coffee shop at Starbucks, and we just watch people. We'd imagine what they're thinking, what their relationship was with each other, what they're trying to say through their body language, through their facial expressions. And we can tell with a lot of these people whether they were best friends or it was their first date. Second tip is be mindful of individual differences. Okay, we all come from different walks of life. I grew up in a Filipino home where it was totally okay to talk loud. Okay, this might be different for you or for someone else. So be mindful of people's age, religion, gender, and most importantly, their emotional state. So the third tip is don't isolate cues. Use every nonverbal cue as a piece of the puzzle. Okay, just because someone closed off their arms doesn't mean that they're closed off right away. Try to piece it all together from their facial expressions, their hand gestures, their tonality, their body language. It's not just the one thing. Alright, so here are some tips for you to use for your own body language. First is match up. That means if you're saying yes, you should not be nodding no. You're just contradicting yourself at that point. Second tip is open up. That means uncrossing your arms and having straight eye contact. Third tip is enhance positive emotion by using body language even when you're not feeling it. So even if you're not feeling it, if you're feeling frustrated or a little down or whatever, smile anyways. Or I remember watching this TED Talk. I don't know where it is exactly. I'm going to find it, and I'll add the link down below. And so in the story of the TED Talk, they had 6 people get ready for a job interview. 3 of them had very low energy body language, so they're more into themselves, more hunched, like a bit more shallow breathing. Okay, and the other 3 had this sort of pose, that pose of a victory or oh, life is awesome kind of pose. They had that for about 5 minutes, and there was a distinct difference in terms of their energy when they came into the room. Okay, I don't remember the whole story exactly, but I'm going to provide you guys the video for you guys to check out after this video. So even if you're not feeling the emotion, taking the time to actually just do it anyways, having a smile, okay, so this, going to the bathroom and just stretching it out, okay, that's going to help out a lot. And occasionally doing verbal acknowledgments, so when the person's talking, you're saying, I gotcha, that's all the things I say. That helps keep me engaged and also tells them that I'm listening to them. Okay, so this might sound a little robotic, it might seem a little forced, it might at first, okay, but this is a practice, this is something, we're not going to be perfect, we're going to stumble, we're going to be a little clumsy. What matters is that we're constantly trying, we're constantly doing our best, and we're actually putting what we're learning to practice. Okay, now the third skill for effective communication is managing stress. Okay, stress is normal. It's a huge dose of stress that can really hinder effective communication. So growing up, my mom had to take a lot to raise me and my siblings. So after the divorce, she had to learn how to drive, get a full-time job, take on payments and bills, take care of me, my brother, my sister, and my grandma. So she had a lot to take on. So the amount of stress that she experienced, it would make sense why it was hard for her to effectively communicate. And on a side note, Mom, if you're watching this, I love you. Thank you for everything you're doing. So have you ever said anything to someone that you've regretted, that you wish you can take back? Me too. So if we can learn how to relieve our stress quickly or a little faster, we won't have to repeat the cycle. If we're in high emotional states, we're not going to communicate effectively. Okay, so that means if you're feeling a little flustered, take 5 to 10 minutes of a timeout, or heck, even use an hour if you need to. What matters is that you calm yourself down, get away from that emotional state, take care of yourself first to really calm you down and get back to a grounded state, and then come back to it after. So here's a video that you can watch of the 7 tools I use to help me manage stress. And the 4th skill is emotional awareness or emotional intelligence. So what that is, it involves both thinking and feeling. And the more connected you are with your emotions, the more you can instantly know what you're feeling without having to think about it. The fact of the matter is that we're all emotional creatures, but that doesn't mean that we're emotional. That means our decisions are influenced by what we're feeling. It's how we communicated as children and how we do it now. Just for some, it's more complex and more dramatic. So here's what I learned from a lot of these classes, is that not everyone is emotionally aware. Most adults can't even identify what they're really feeling. And if you're not connected to what your emotions are, it's going to lead to a lot of frustration, conflicts, and misunderstandings. So it sounds easy, but a lot of adults more often than not try to ignore their emotions or try to suppress the strong emotions. A lot of people know about this, but many fail to apply it. The longevity of your relationships depend on effective communication, and effective communication depends on how connected you are with your emotions, your feelings. All right, so that's about it. The 4 skills in effective communication. In these upcoming videos, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the barriers of effective communication, different communication styles, and a lot more. Okay, so now I want to give you something to do, or at least try. That way that you're not just watching this video and say, oh cool, it's another video I watch. I want you to take action, that way you're getting more value out of this. Okay, so emotional intelligence is something you can learn and can really enhance our relationships. Okay, I did a leadership development class, I think 2 years ago, with a company called MITT. If you're in the LA area, I strongly recommend you check their workshops out. It changed my life. And if you don't live in LA, I'm positive that there are other sister companies as well. But to help you get started, here are some resources that you can use. The first resource is the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, and the second resource is going to help.org. It's a great guide on getting you started. Now before I go, if you guys like this video, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who you think might benefit from it. And while you're at it, make sure you head on over to the blog, subscribe to the free newsletter so I can give you guys insight and more beyond Emeroy TV. And if you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or over at the blog. Now, we're all called to greatness, whether it's the lowest point of our lives or the highest point of our lives. From moment to moment, we all have that choice to live our highest potential. But at the end of the day, it's really up to us to choose. The world needs your greatness to shine. Thanks for watching Emeroy TV, and I'll catch you guys next time. It's chilly. It's like sunny 1 second and chilly the next. I think I might have to wear a jacket on the next one.